I'm back. I don't know if it was actually that long, but in case it was, welcome back. I made it. The one thing that I wanted for it to not look like I made it. Blaze is looking to play with this, but then also we will cross that bridge. Not right now. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm making a bridesmaid dress for a wedding that I will be in next month. So I have a friend, I have a lot of friends who've gotten married or are getting married, but I have a friend who's getting married in a month, and she asked us to wear a black bridesmaid's dress. And she actually posed the idea of me making it because her sister is also making one. And so I did. I will be using this simplicity pattern, and I had a few problems with that I will talk about in the video, but also at the end. But I do like how the dress turned out. I kind of was a little touch and go, but I do like it, and I do think I'm going to go with it. So I hope that you like it. If you do, don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow me on my social medias, and let's get into it. Hello. In today's video, I'm making a bridesmaid's dress for a wedding that I will be in soon. I feel like I took a little bit of a break. Not like, I don't know, but yeah, I feel like it's been a minute since I've actually done sewing and filming. Um, and part of that is because I think the last thing I did was a necklace for a bachelorette. One of my friends, she one day she had us all wear white and she wore red, and so we accessorized with red jewelry. And I don't have much red jewelry. I did actually have a pair of red heart earrings, so I made a necklace that I thought was so cute and I actually really like and wore it recently for something. But I didn't do anything else because I knew that this project that I am starting is going to be very important and I just wanted to make sure I gave myself time, and so I just kind of relaxed some. So I'm back. I don't know if it was actually that long, but in case it was, welcome back. um, so I'm making a bridesmaid's dress, and for a wedding that I will be in soon, and a big thing. I kind of it's we just have to wear black, any like floor length black dress. And I kind of toyed a little bit with the idea of making the dress versus buying. And my friend was who knows that I sew was like, oh, you could make your dress, and her sister, like slash maid of honor, is also making her dress. And so I kind of like thought about it. And so when Joann's went out of business, sadly, I did actually buy a lot of black. Um, I don't know if I think it's more so charmeuse, not real, not real charmeuse, but a lot of that just in case I did. And but I told myself that if I made it, the one thing that I wanted for it to not look like I made it. And I will say, I think I've made a fair amount of like very good projects, especially in like the past year or so. But I do think that I have a lot of learning to do in sewing and ways to improve my skills, and there's lots of ways that I want to do that, and one of those is through using patterns more because, as you can tell from a lot of my videos, I don't often use pre-made patterns. And for like almost since I started sewing, like 10 years ago, I mostly would draft my own. So I do want to take some time to learn through patterns and also through books, which I've mentioned. So I was like, okay, if I do this, I want it to look good. I want it to look like I bought it. And I looked at designs that I liked with if I wanted to draft my own, but I was like, I just don't know if I have the skill set right now to draft a pretty elegant gown. And I hope one day I do, and I think I will one day. But, anyways, I went online and I bought a pattern, so I'm going to show what I did. I also so it's by Simplicity. They had a sale for I guess like pattern month or sewing month or something. So I maybe bought a few more patterns. So some of those will probably make an appearance in the future as well. But this is the pattern, and I'm going to do dress A because I really liked the one shoulder, and I felt like it would. I feel like with the vibe of my friend's wedding, it'll really match that. So yeah. But what I'm first gonna do is take my measurements. I've taken them before, but like take them right now in specifically the undergarments or bra that I'm gonna wear, just so I can know for sure and then match which size is best. And then I'm gonna cut out the pieces and I'm gonna transfer them because like pattern paper is very flimsy. I'm thinking about transferring them to pattern to fabric, just like a plain like cotton fabric from Walmart or something. So that way, if I want to make the bodice, I could do that in like the pattern fabric and maybe do like hand basting or just like a really loose basting stitch. Make sure that it fits or if there are any alterations that need to be made, and then actually start cutting out the fabric because I think I have more than enough. Like I have like 6 or 7 yards of fabric. I made sure I was like, I am going to have enough for whatever I'm going to do. But I want to minimize the amount of alterations needed since I'm assuming I'm going to be lining the bodice at least. So, yeah. So I'm going to start by taking my measurements, seeing which size I want to make. I know what size I am, but I just want to double check. And then I'm going to start cutting out the pieces, and then later I will transfer them to something else that's a little more sturdy. Okay, I cut out the pattern pieces. So I'm going to copy it onto fabric so I can use that to make the mock-up. But since I'm going to use the fabric as like the actual pattern, I need to copy everything over. So I'm going to first outline, I'm going to pin the pattern down and I'm going to outline with a washable marker so I can kind of wash off that line. And then for all of like the darts and other markings, I got these fabric markers. So I'm going to use that. And then I'm going to try using my tracing wheel to copy over the stuff and then draw it onto fabric. So, and if this doesn't work, I'll use pens instead. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to make a mock-up at the least of the bodice. We'll see depending on how that fits. Okay, I have all of the pattern pieces copied to fabric. So I kind of knew this a little bit when I cut out my pieces, but I think the sizing for this pattern is a little off from standard sizing. And so I think I am above the sizing that they said. And I had a whole like, do I want to do this one? All this stuff. And I actually got a backup one from Walmart, but I think I still want to go with this one. So what I did was after I had the fabric or the pattern copied to the fabric, I sewed the darts and one side seam of the bodice together, and I tried it on and it was a little small, so I kind of eyeballed roughly how much I thought I needed, and I divided that measurement by 4 and I added that amount to the top and then a little bit to the skirt on. So the skirt for the front and the back, there will be 3 pieces total. So to that side piece, only to one side, so that it hopefully doesn't change, that like the darts and like the skirt seams still line up. So what that looks like was adding a little bit to the side of the bodice and then just to one side of the skirt so it'll line up with the outside of each one. Blaze is looking to play with this. But then also I added it to the interfacing just to make sure that it will go all the way across. And I left the drape as is because I'm like, technically it's supposed to go around my arm, so I don't think that it needs it. I don't know, just looking at the pattern piece, I'm like, I think it's fine. I won't really know, but we'll see. So I'm going to start cutting things out. I'm going to try to use the layout that they use, which looks something like this. So I'll have the skirt sides, the skirt middle, and then I will have the bodice and the drape, and then also eventually the lining. So I'm gonna put the pattern onto the fabric. I think I'm gonna pin it all in place, cut it with scissors most likely, which sucks a little bit, but my rotary cutter is only so big and I might as well, but I think I said I got nice scissors that are like meant for cutting at like on a surface, even though I'm on the floor. Whatever. And then yeah, and I think for the top, for both the like outside and the lining, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna mark the notches. I'm gonna mark the notches outward. I think they clip them in. I would just feel more comfortable doing them outward. Um, but for the top, I think I'm gonna wait to transfer the dart like information with the tracing wheel after, like once I'm closer to sewing it. So I'll probably, once I get there, use the sewing wheel to mark the dart and then use tailor's chalk to mark it before I actually pin it and sew it. So I'm gonna start cutting stuff and then I will start constructing. Also, this is the fabric that I have. So I said that I got it from Joann's. It's like I think it's technically like, it's a fake silk charmeuse. It is not real silk. And I think I have like 6 or 7 yards, but I have it in different increments. It's not like one cut thing because I don't know. I think I was like always on the fence about whether or not I was going to make this dress for this wedding. And so when Joann's went out of business, I was like, maybe I'll see if they have any fabric that I could use. And I think they had multiple bolts, but I just was like, okay, we're just going to go to a lot because they don't have a lot on just one anymore. So yeah, I have like 3 pieces. So I'm going to start cutting and then yeah. Okay, I sewed the darts on the top and the lining. I actually messed up the lining a little bit because I wanted the wrong side of the fabric to face me. And so when I cut the lining following the instructions, it's like said cut right side up, but flip the pattern pieces. And I didn't really think about how like technically in that case the wrong side would now be the right side. So I had to, and so when I sewed the darts on the wrong side, so I had to take that out and redo that. But I did the darts and I started the drape. So I sewed together the middle and now I have the outside pinned. So I'm going to baste that and then I'll do the pleats. I'm also probably going to iron this down before I do the pleats just so it's flat. And then after that, I connect the drape to the bodice at the shoulder seam, and then I think I do the interfacing and the lining. I don't fully understand the instructions for it right now, but I'm hoping that once I get closer to it, I'll actually figure it out. I also haven't cut out the interfacing yet, but I'll do that in a second as well. But yeah, so I'm gonna do that, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so I did the interfacing for the lining and I sewed the neckline of the lining to the outside bit. I'm gonna have a little bit of transparency. I'm a little worried about how this dress is gonna turn out because I tried on the drape before I had it connected and I didn't really love how it looked. And I thought about just doing the one shoulder view, but I really like the drape and I'm like, I'm not gonna really know until I kind of have the dress mostly finished, until I can add a zipper. So I don't know. So what I'm thinking is finish it, obviously. And well, there's also one other thing. So I adjusted the bodice to fit. I did not do a mock up for the skirt because I didn't have like the full skirt pieces. I kind of only had like half total, because each front has one piece in the middle and then two on the sides. So I didn't do a mock up, and I am hoping that because I adjusted the skirt to fit the bodice, that it will also still fit. But like, I don't know. I don't know. So, I'm gonna finish because I'm not gonna really be able to know until I finish. And I guess worst comes to worst, I'm trying to finish this sooner than later. I have a little bit more than a month of when, I mean, I guess y'all don't technically know when, like today's date, but it is like mid September. So I have a little less than a month until the wedding. So my goal is to finish within the next week. And then if I don't like it, I can just either order something or go and see if I can find something. So, and maybe we'll like it. Maybe I'm just being a little critical because I don't know. I don't know. There's just thoughts. I just want it to be really good and I don't want it to look like I made it. Not that that's like a bad thing, but like I want it to look professional quality and I am trying to do the things pressing. I don't know if I showed you my sleeve ironing board, which I'm actually really excited about. Because I have been trying to like press my seams and stuff more, but also just like press my clothes and stuff more in general. I have an actual tailor's ham, not just the one I made. So next thing I need though is a I see people online, they use like a wooden block to like really get their seams into place after they press it. That's something I would like to look into eventually. But either way, I sewed the lining, this lining to the outside. So now I'm going to understitch, which I think what that kind of means is I'll take this seam allowance, press it down towards this side, the lining, and then sew it really close to the seam without catching the seam and without showing it on the other side. Because in the past, when I didn't know about understitching until a few months ago, but there's certain projects I've done where, if you've seen, I did the lining and I would top stitch to get it really flat. That is not what you're supposed to do. I guess if you technically can, but understitching is better. So I'm going to do that. And then I think afterwards I'll sew the armhole together under stitch. And I don't fully understand the instructions for attaching the side seams, but we will cross that bridge. Not right now. So I don't know if I mentioned, but with the drape, I ended up extending the pleats further out, like an inch and a half on like all the parts where I did the pleats because my fabric just isn't really holding, at least like holding it up. It wasn't really holding the pleat further down. And so it'd be like pleated at like the shoulder and then just like straight pleat at the like end. So I did that. And so that's another reason why I'm like, I just don't know if the drape is really going to look how I want it to. But yeah, I extended them out a little bit and I was like, worst comes to worst. In the instructions, it says not to press, but if I need to, I could press it or steam it into place a little bit more just to give more of a like effect. But also, this is my sleeve ironing board, very small and tiny. I've been pressing my clothes, pressing my seams, and it is hard to press a sleeve on a real ironing board, so I got one of these. And I've been using that some just to like be a little more precise with some of my pressing throughout this project as well. Okay, I connected the lining to the top. I had a time figuring that out with the drape. There was a moment where I didn't have it like fully in, and so I couldn't flip it inside out, and it was a whole thing. So I'm gonna do the skirt, and I think the skirt's gonna be easier than doing the top. I do think that connecting it and the zipper might be a little challenging, so that is something to figure out later. But yeah, I did add the skirt, like the extra width at the top of the skirt to like technically the wrong side because the notches don't line up with like the center, but it is what it is. So I just made sure to have that on the outside so that I can go to the outside side seam, and hopefully everything lines up, which we will see soon. But I'm gonna get ready and sew that and then connect the skirt to each other and then attach the top and do the zipper. Also, side note, so if you're hemming a bias cut dress, which this is not, you're supposed to let it like hang for a few days before you hem it because sometimes like, it'll change. Even though this isn't bias cut, I think I still want to do that just in case. So once I'm done, I'll probably let it hang for a day or two. And I might try to make my own little, like, those clear straps that a lot of dresses come with that, like, you see on the hanger. I might try to make those to add in since this is one shoulder that it's not going to have a second thing. And then if I do that, I'll just like stitch it to the lining and make sure to not catch through to the other side. And I think I also want to do that because that'll be helpful for the wedding is not where I am. I will be traveling for it. So this dress will be going in a suitcase. So it'll have to be ironed or steamed, and being able to hang it easily or more easily than to be able to steam it, I think would be helpful. So I'll probably do that after everything is done. Okay, I'm on the final stretch of the dress and I have to attach the skirt to the top and put in the zipper. And I think I'm going to take a few creative liberties with these instructions. I wanted to follow the instructions like to a T, and I feel like I have for the most part. I got a little turned around with the connecting the lining, and then also it said to like understitch the armhole, and they're just, I don't know, the ways that I've seen people understitch, you cannot do that unless they mean top stitch, so I didn't do that. So, for the last part of the instructions, the biggest changes that I'm going to be make is just with serging things. So I'm not going to stay stitch the top of the skirt, but after I connect it, I'm just going to serge the end because the fabric does fray a lot. And then for the lining and the bottom, I'm also going to serge the bottom of that piece as well before I connect it. Um, I think that's the main thing that I'm going to do, because then afterwards it's connect the outside to the skirt, press that seam allowance up, then it's add the zipper, and then sew down the lining. So I guess that's like the main difference I'm gonna do. So actually not much, but yeah. So I'm gonna start by serging that, and then I will start to connect it and add in the zipper. I think I'm also kind of just gonna wing the zipper a little bit, but I do think I'm probably gonna hand baste some of it in place because also they say to use an invisible zipper foot. I do not have that, and nowhere sells it in person. So maybe in the future I will have one, but yeah. The other thing for the zipper is I couldn't find an invisible zipper that was the length that they like suggested. I have one that's longer. So I think I'm just going to leave the side seam on the skirt open a little bit more instead of shortening the zipper. So that's the other thing. But yeah, after that, I will wait to hem it after it's been hung for a few days, and then it'll be done. Okay, so I do have to take in my zipper because it's very long. I think it's like 18 inches. Um, and yeah, but the method for putting in the zipper, I think they kind of press the open seam and pin it down and like baste and then put it in. I'm going to do the method where you sew the seam and then press it open, sew down the zipper, and then seam rip open the seam. I feel like that just would be a little bit easier. So I'm gonna do that, and then afterwards, I'm gonna for the lining you press the bottom edge and like the open bit on that, and sew it to the seam allowance and to the zipper. So I'm gonna do that, and then the dress. Well, it'll be done other than hemming it, and then I'm also probably gonna make the shoulder ties to be able to hang it. Okay, I have the dress mostly done. I sewed the lining to, I used a slip stitch to sew it to the seam allowance and to the zipper tape. So I'm gonna hem it. Hemming things is hard to do on your own. So my plan for it is put on the dress, mark, like I will bend over and pin where I think it should hit, and kind of like use that and eyeball to like eyeball it to see how much I need to take off. And then once I have that point, what I'm going to do is probably cut half an inch more, or I guess less, just half an inch down from where I have marked. And then I'm going to press the hem and pin it some, and then try it back on to make sure that I like how it falls with the hem. And then from there, I will actually sew it and the dress will be done. I pinned it. My mirror is just kind of dirty, which is why it doesn't look as great. The pinning is a little wonky, but there's one white pin, and I think that it's a good length because it's right above the floor. Um, yeah. I saw something online that said that you want for a floor length dress to come roughly an inch above the floor because like when you walk and just like when you walk and stuff, you don't want to be stepping on it. So I think the white pin is pretty good because it is just above the floor. So I'm gonna mark it and cut a little under the white, and then um, I'm gonna iron it and pin it some more just to see. But also, I don't know how much you can see, but the lining is looking, or the top is looking a little weird, and I think it might be because of how I sewed down the lining. So if I pull it down some, it looks better. And I think because the lining is stuck in one place, it can't really move as much. So I'm gonna unsew the lining from the, or seam rip the lining from the seam allowance at the waist and see if that looks any better. But yeah. Thanks for watching. I really hope you liked it. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow me on my social medias. So while I do like how this dress turned out, I did have a few issues with the pattern. One, the biggest one was that their size range was a little small, even for this to be the plus size version. and I had to adjust the top pieces. And I think if I didn't, I could have still either really squeezed into it or just got some good shapewear, but I felt like I would have been uncomfortable. But because I adjusted the top, even though I tried to adjust the skirt, I should have made a mock up because not making a mock up, I didn't realize that some things were a little off. So that was one issue I had. Also, I most of the instructions were fine. There was one understitching instruction with the armhole for doing the drape that just didn't make sense how you would like actually do that unless you were to just top stitch it, which is not what they said to do. So yeah. And I think there's two other things that I feel like I either had issues with or just took a little issue with, which was the lining. Sewing it to the seam allowance kind of made the outside a little baggy, so I thought it was better to just sew it to the zipper and leave the rest of it free flowing, but have the bottom pressed under. And then there's the way they did the zipper, they did it on the side with the armhole, and it doesn't go all the way up, so you can't step into the dress. I would have preferred that it be on the other side and come all the way up, so that way you can step into it, because I feel like most times when people are wearing a nice dress, they're also wearing makeup, and that's not fun to have to worry about putting something over your head. So I don't know, but either way, I got it to work. And also, the drape was a little too small and I should have adjusted that, but I didn't think that I needed to because it didn't go across the whole bodice. But I think I would like how it lays a little bit more if the drape was a little bit longer. But all in all, I still got it to work and I still think that it looks good. And I did learn a thing or two from following a pattern since I don't use patterns that often. There will be more in the future. But I hope that y'all liked it. And until next time, bye, guys.